This episode is brought to you by Blue Door Financial. Blue Door Financial will help you save money and reduce taxes to live a fuller financial life. To learn more, visit Blue Door Financial online at BLUdoorfinancial.com. That's BLUdoorfinancial.com. Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Tom Ruskey, director of Candy's Place. What's up, podcast? Episode 88 of the On the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door studio. Welcome to the show, Tom. How are you?
Doing great this evening, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm a big supporter of Candy's Place myself. For those listening that don't know, I am on the board for Candy's Place, and but I also have a much deeper connection, which Tom, I know you just found out recently.
Yes.
My mom, Sue, she runs some of the breast cancer
support groups.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So quick story. So my mom, back even before I was born, she was about 27 years old. I'm not even sure if you know the story, Tom. But my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and sorry, Mom, I'm gonna age you a little bit here. But she always tells everybody she's 29, by the way.
She did tell me that the other night.
Did she?
Yes, she did.
I figured she did. So
I can confirm.
She's still 29. Yeah. So my mom, she was diagnosed with breast cancer when she was very young, and fortunately for her, they caught it when she was very young, or was early on, and she went through treatment, radiation, and surgery, and fortunately for her, she survived, and she's 36 years cancer free. So my connection to Candy's Place and just cancer in general, like I feel like everyone nowadays has some sort of connection to cancer, unfortunately. But yeah, so we'll jump into a lot of that. We'll talk about a lot of that. But before we do, tell me a little bit about Tom.
Well, geez, I where to start on this one? So, I grew up in a family who was very active in the local community. So as I got a little older, finished up college, one of the things that first piqued my interest in getting involved with the community on a bigger level was the Arena Yes office, or the Arena Yes effort. And I remember getting involved, thinking this was, reading about, hearing about news, thinking it was a wonderful thing. The day the Arena Yes office opened up in downtown Wilkes-Barre, I walked in and said, "Hi, I'm Tom Ruskey. I'd like to volunteer and help out and do anything we can to get this passed." And, young 20-something kid getting involved. There was a lot of us in that very similar demographic. And it was before I even knew what networking was. It was probably the best networking opportunity anyone can ever have, because you're mingling and get to work with the leaders of the community, folks that were trying to drive a better effort, a better tomorrow for us, to better the community. So getting involved with that early on was just tremendous experience. And I was just talking to some folks the other day and relating to how that effort back then similar or mirrors to what we're going through as a country right now. Unfortunately, the political state of affairs is what it is. We've become very tribal. We are on opposite ends of the spectrum. Emotions are running incredibly high. And I think we saw a snapshot of that back during that campaign. It really did split the community. Emotions were tied into it. It was, trying to be pictured as young versus old. And it split families. I knew I used to have family get-togethers with some aunts and uncles, and it almost felt like you weren't welcome. Because we were on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Oh, I noticed there was an Arena Yes sign in your yard, and you were on the opposite side. And it became, for something right now, we don't even think about it. It's so, the facility is so successful. But back then it was, the end of the world if we were going to build this. So you had the, Arena Yes side, the Taxes No side, and there was barely any middle ground across the community. So, we've healed from that then. The building was successful. We've come together as a community. No one argues about it anymore. And hopefully someday this country can fall in that same boat, and we can pull together a little bit better than we are now. But back then it was just, again, a great experience. I was a little young, naive, probably a little crazy, because we used to have different speaking engagements. You'd be volunteered to go speak to Lions groups, Kiwanis clubs, anything at all about this. And I would occasionally volunteer for the organization in the Hazleton market, which was, you took your life in your hands a little bit by doing that, because it was also framed as us versus them, that it was this building was never going to benefit the folks of Hazleton. And so the anti-side was pitting those folks against us. And there were times I left speaking engagements where I was seriously worried about coming back or getting back to my car or having my car tires slashed or something along those lines. So, but from that effort, again, at the end of the day, after, 80-some thousand votes that were cast in the county, we lost by a few dozen votes. It was, 40, 50, 60 votes, whatever it was, but really low numbers. So it's an effort of, another lesson on how every vote counts. If people are involved in political sides of any type, every number does count. So don't forget that responsibility. But it's, again, from there, got to know a lot of the folks at the Wilkes-Barre Chamber who were staffing and driving the effort as well. And shortly thereafter, I was brought on board in the economic and community development team at the Chamber. Got to work on finishing up the arena project, got to work on a lot of community development efforts. The big work that we did was, building and recruiting major companies into the industrial parks. And we love to, over the years, the misconception that there were always these stories going around that, we were trying to drive wages down, or we were only trying to bring in low wage companies, and nothing could be further from the truth. I used to love the stories, and the same uncle who didn't want me at his house because I was an Arena Yes guy was the guy who said, "Oh, you work for that chamber, and Saturn wanted to open an auto plant here, and the chamber told them to go away. We don't want high paying jobs here." It was, and yet I went and looked in our archives, and the Saturn file was about 8 to 12 inches thick. So it's just, it's amazing. We did a lot of huge efforts, had a lot of success in bringing companies in, always strived. And again, even to this day, the economic development folks in this region always strive to bring in the best and high paying jobs. It's just a challenge when you're competing against so many other communities across the country. So I still got to give those guys credit for fighting the good fight, trying to bring things in, and it's good to look in on them, see how they're doing from day to day.
Yeah. So did the Arena Yes campaign that you were involved with, did that lead to you then working at the chamber?
Yes.
Is that how it came about?
Basically, the person who was running the Arena Yes campaign was Todd Vonderheide. He ended up moving over to the economic development side at the chamber, and shortly after he was there, brought me on board the team as it was growing and expanding.
Very nice. So what was your experience like at the chamber?
Like I said, we worked, again, finishing up the arena, making sure we got that built. Plan B was put into place. Opening night still is one of those great, the ribbon cutting. I still have photos of it. It's one of those great memories looking back on your career. Then again, working at the chamber, just constantly fighting for better things for this community. Got to work on some exciting things, and you look back on your career, the arena is a successful project. We worked on a lot of land preservation and greenway projects, trails that we all love and enjoy. Got to be a small part of the levee project in the riverfront parks in Wilkes-Barre, and seeing how successful they are. And you look at the concert series that we're running on the counties running on that, really finally utilizing that to its biggest potential, and seeing the success. It's great to see that. Hope that continues to grow. And it's nice to sit there and look when everything's all done and realize, man, 20 years ago, I was in a planning meeting for something along this, and talking things through, and running into folks like Jim Berzina, who was the county engineer at the time. I ran into him not too long ago, and we were chuckling on, I look back and still chuckle on the surface, that there was argument over, the tops of the levees. Instead of black top, should it be red crushed stone, and all those arguments that are in the past, and to see the success of those things, see people using those things that you worked on, years and years ago, is just thrilling to see.
Yeah. What made you want to get so involved with the community?
I think because growing up, I had my family was always involved with the community on a very small local level. And you go through college, you go through high school. My very best friends are guys I went to junior high with, and some of them moved away. And friends of yours from high school, from college, graduate and move away. and to go to better places, supposedly better places. And it really, why is it better to do that, take the easy way out? Why don't you fight and try to make your home a better place? So it becomes addictive. You meet other people who have that same drive, who have that vision, and they can pass it on to you. I know we were talking a little bit earlier about, people like Larry Newman, like Steve Baruch, like Kevin Blom's, the people in this community who really tried to do and create a better community, to be around them, have them inspire you and have them be mentors to you. And was something to be, a great part of growing up and having to learn from those folks and just, again, be inspired by them.
Yeah. Any other crazy stories, like, besides getting stuck in an elevator?
Bringing that one up, it's interesting. You look back again on projects or efforts that were controversial, and you look back and it's not as popular as it once was, but it was definitely controversial, and its time still is controversial. You hear about economic development incentive programs, and probably the granddaddy of them all in Pennsylvania was the KOZs, the Keystone Opportunity Zones. And I was part of the group on the administrative side, on the staff side, who actually had to package all of the information that had to go into that and be submitted on time for that effort to go through. It was during the Ridge administration was put in. And sure enough, the deadline, and it was binders and binders and binders of material. It wasn't electronic like it is now. We actually had to print out thousands of documents and go through so many different approval processes from municipal levels. And then finally, everything was done and had to be submitted by New Year's Eve. It had to be postmarked on that date. So we had wrapped things up in the chamber offices, had to go up to, I think it was like the 10th floor of the Citizens Bank building, package everything up and get it out. And sure enough, we're in the elevator, and in about a half hour before the post office closes, and the elevator suddenly stops and shuts down on New Year's Eve when we are certain there's no one else in the building. And we're thinking, what the hell are we going to do? So we're hitting all of the buttons on the elevator, trying to get to go, and all of a sudden the elevator starts moving and it starts dropping. And it might have dropped 4 inches, but it felt like 4 floors. And
yeah.
And I'm not sure if anyone's ever been in an experience like that. And here we are thinking, well, if the firefighters come and get us, and whoever's mangled body is, just hold up the application, and your last words say, "Get this to the post office," because we put.
You guys made that pact.
We made that pact. So I think I still have the scars in my back from, I think, where Larry grabbed my back when the elevator dropped. But we had to pry the doors open, get out.
No help.
Take the stairs. Nope. No one ever showed up. The elevator didn't eventually open up, but got the package delivered. And I may be embellishing the story a little bit, but that's what it was in memory. But we did make it there on time.
Just in time.
With, I think, about 4 minutes to spare.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. So what was next after the chamber?
Well, the chamber again was, I was there for 11 years, and we had some incredible successes over those years. Some of the highlights of the companies that we located, one of the big ones that we were heavily involved with which dragged on for a couple years, was the CVS Care, the Advanced PCS project known there, which is now the CVS Caremark site in Hanover Township. That was a project we worked and won that, which again brought over 100 pharmacists, 500 or 600 pharm techs, really good paying jobs. And that was a true success because we won that one because of the talent of our community. A lot of people think companies just pick places because of you have low taxes or it's cheap this or cheap labor. Here we had Wilkes University had launched its pharmacy program at the time. We were going to have a steady flow of pharmacy graduates, and especially if you need a community to absorb 100 plus pharmacy positions. To work with the company, realized that this was a place where talent drove where we won a location. So it wasn't because of KOZs or tax breaks or anything else, but it's, we had the talent that this company needed. So it was great. That was another great highlight. But moving on after the chamber, was a wonderful place to work at the time. If it's one of those jobs that if there were times we spent taking naps on the boardroom table because we worked on projects through the night. That happened several occasions on different things. So it was exciting. It was fun. When you had the wins, you knew the community was going to benefit. You knew you were creating opportunities where your friends wouldn't have to leave for jobs elsewhere. So having that be a part of why we did it and why it was so fun and why we were driven to do it was, like I said, just a great experience, and worked with great people there. But it is nonprofit. And one of the things, if you do work for a nonprofit, some point in time, you've got to buy wedding rings and afford a mortgage and things like that. So when the private sector came calling, I took that route. And so my career, if you saw my resume, went in a lot of crazy directions from that. So I was in banking. I was in the energy industry when energy was deregulated in the state of Pennsylvania. I was in, most recently I was on the corporate side of things for a major staffing company. And we had, worked my way up to where I was covering the organization for 3 states. That became a job where, interesting, but it's time consuming. It was 700 miles a week in the car. It was flying to Chicago, to Milwaukee. So I covered New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, some of New York. So, about 4,000 people on assignments under that. So great experience there. We could probably, I'm sure you could write a book on your industry. I could have written a book on my time there, the things you see, 4,000 employees, people do crazy things. And so, and the one thing I never wanted to happen, which was always the worst day imaginable, was when you come in and one of those few thousand people was injured. And so the big focus was always picking opportunities and work where people would be on assignments where, it wasn't dangerous. But law of averages, you have that many people, luckily, knock on wood, never had someone pass away in all that time. There were a couple of times where people lost a finger. And it's amazing. Those were diehard workers that wanted to go get patched up and get back on the job that same day. So you learn a lot about people when you see that many folks who go to opportunities. And now, obviously the economy now is such a workers' economy. People can pick and choose. So it's great to see that. Then I was in more of an HR role in my just last role before I came to Candy's place. And that was something where we went through literally my third, early into the career, all of a sudden we get the notice, COVID has hit. And, oh, by the way, the state of Pennsylvania is going to close things down. And I had 750 people here in Wilkes-Barre at the facility I was the HR manager at. And it was, they have to be out of the office in 2 days, 48 hours. So jumping into, trying to transition that many people between desktops, laptops, an IT team to, have people literally set up a drive-through in your building where you're shuttling this stuff to people's cars, having them go home and setting things up and dealing with the IT issues that come with that. And then managing from a remote location was, again, another crazy, you can have stories, but it's another amazing thing to see that many people come together and make that work. And so many companies did that during this crisis, that how they transitioned to a home environment. And I'm thrilled to be back now working around people, but being home for 2 years, working in that environment, I couldn't stand it. I needed to be around people, love to be around people in a face-to-face setting. I love the collaborative nature of being around folks. So I was one of those folks, and I guess I'm one of the rarities who didn't like working from home. And yet I know that we are in a new world now, and we'll probably never be back to the way we were before because it worked. It was amazing that efficiency went up for our company. Business went up. So we adapted to the different challenges exceptionally well, but it became very stressful, in the position I was in. So I know Candy's Place was an organization that's very close to my family. And so I knew several of the board members and knew several of the staff people there. We were close to the folks. They had approached me and said that, the current director is moving on. She's moving to a new opportunity out of state. We're looking at bringing a new director in. We know you've got a strong interest in it, know the organization exceptionally well, its mission. And would you be interested in coming and being the director? And I remember meeting with the executive committee, and it was such a great, it wasn't an interview. It was just a discussion on where do we need to go as an organization? What are we doing? How can we make things better? How can we keep the mission going? And it was just so natural. It was one of the most natural interviews or discussions I've ever had. And it feels so wonderful to be the director. It's one of those jobs, again, look back on, comparing it to my chamber days, to where this is just, I leave work every day feeling great about what I do. I don't lose sleep at night. I don't, it's knowing that we're helping people in one of the worst times of their lives is something that's very rewarding and very moving. And I can't say enough great things about the organization and just what we do and just being there and being part of it in this role is again, just a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah. Can you share your personal connection to Candy's Place?
Sure. Several years ago, my mom, and I know you shared your story about your mom and her challenges with cancer and her battle and journey. My mom was a 21-year survivor of ovarian cancer and a 7-year survivor on stage 3C pancreatic cancer. So when you get that pancreatic cancer notice, it's a rough one. It's one of the ones that the survival rates aren't there. It's an aggressive form of cancer. It was a fairly late stage that we were made aware of. And my mom, in her journey through that, found out about Candy's Place. And one of the most important things for someone's chances and their health is having an unbelievable support network. If you have that, that's almost as important as exceptional health care. You need to be in the right frame of mind. You need to have that support. You need people there to lift you up. You need people there to keep you balanced, to keep you real, for you to make it through on a lot of these cases. And quite honestly, my mom would not have made 7+ years with pancreatic cancer if it wasn't for the support of her family or network and places like Candy's Place. And so she went there and went through the services and experiences, loved the organization. She partook in so many of the volunteer activities and other things afterwards. She, one of the highlights was they had a fashion show. One year, they used to run a fashion show every year as a fundraiser, and she was asked to be a model in it. And you swear that was like one of the most important things that she ever did. So we still have the video of that running all the time. I have to add that my mom actually passed away on my 3rd day on the job at Candy's Place. It wasn't from cancer. The cancer didn't come back. But just the wear and tear of going through battles like that does take a toll. And those things caught up with us, but we were blessed with 7 years when we did not expect much. We were not told much early on. And we were blessed also with exceptional health care, which surprisingly, when you get this diagnosis, any family does, you go and get 2nd, 3rd, 4th opinions. You go to every major city. You find out where's the best places for this type of cancer. Where does it be treated? And so in my mom's case, the places were John Wayne in Texas, Baltimore. And as we did homework, found out my mom was a candidate for a very complex surgery called Whipple Surgery. And there's not many surgeons who perform it as well. It's a complicated surgery, usually runs 11 to 14 hours. And it turns out one of the doctors, actually Dr. Chu, who actually is head of the cancer center at the Frank Henry Center at Geisinger, Geisinger had recruited him to our area. And he came through several of these top-notch facilities, performed, hundreds, if not thousands of these complicated surgeries. And he was right here in our backyard. So, there's a lot of things to say where people say you've got to go out of the area for, great healthcare. a lot of times it's right here. And so I have another family member who lives actually pretty further out, closer to New York, has a rare form of cancer. And you would think he'd be at Sloan Kettering or someplace like that. Him, again, is doing the homework. One of the best doctors is here at Geisinger. So it's for those folks out there who are going through this, and I know, everybody should, find those other options, get those second, third, fourth opinions, but don't discount this area. So again, going back to, and Dr. Chu's on our board now as well. So it's great to see him be part of our organization, but Candy's Place, and for those of you out there who don't know what it is, we're a cancer wellness center. And what does that mean? And so we don't focus on medical procedures or medical treatments. We focus on someone's wellness and mental health and well-being on that. The idea is that if a person, obviously if you're going through this, there's unbelievable stresses, there's unbelievable tension, and we do everything possible to relieve that so you can heal from what you're going through. And so we do that in several different ways. We do support groups, which, Bill, your mom is a part of that. And I was just part of a breast cancer support group talk just the other night with her. And we had some folks out in person, and it's good to see people getting together. We're still very cautious with that because of COVID. But people talking through and understanding other folks have gone through what they're going through, hearing that, especially if they could hear it face to face in the same room, is far more effective than virtual. We're forced to do it virtually a lot right now, but it is so much healthier when people can get together and talk through with that and have people guide those conversations. Second part, we have a great gym as part of our facility, and so we have trainers do one-on-one personal training with folks who either prior to them going through surgery or treatment know how to build those people up specifically, whether they know to increase their energy, their stamina, increase flexibility in anticipation of surgery, increase muscle in certain areas, knowing that it'll help them recover once the surgery is complete, is what we focus a lot on. And then actually post-treatment, post-surgery, rebuilding those people back up. It's very popular right now because that's the focus, being, October now being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Probably close to half of our clients that come in our site come in with breast cancer. They often go through mastectomies, surgeries, things like that. So the gym portion, our trainers do an amazing job, do quite a bit of work, especially on the sides, and they're very successful on that. Another area which is very popular that we really focus on is again, relaxation and stress relief. So we do offer everything from reflexology, massage therapy, acupuncture, vibrational sound therapy, Reiki. We have people who do facials. We have individuals who come in who are beauticians and help folks. So these are things, again, I see folks coming in, and where my office sits, I could see into the parking lot, and often I see our clients come in, they're a little hunched over, their steps are a little slow. After getting some, going through something like that, you see them they're just in a different place walking out. They have a better spring in their step. They're walking more upright and just feeling better. And again, what we do is not going to cure someone, but boy, it's going to help them through the process, and know that there's folks there that are going to, help them and just make them feel better, even for that little bit period of time. Again, puts them in a great frame of mind, and all of the services that we offer are free. So we do a heck of a lot of fundraising to make sure that happens. But it's also not only free to the individual, anybody over the age of 18, any gender who has cancer, but also their caregivers. We realize caregivers are an incredibly important part, whether they're family, friends, of the journey in the battle. When I see people come in for the first time and they come in with their spouses and children and friends, I know these people just have such a better chance of getting through this in better, because they just have that support network, and that's incredibly, incredibly important. On the other end of that, I see folks that come in just on their own. They don't have that family network. They don't have that network of friends. And so we can become at least a piece of that. We become part of their social surroundings. We have people, we call them, super users. They come in for, as many treatments as they possibly can because it's part of their, the social interaction for the week and the month. And so it's great that we see them and we can fill that role. And again, it's all about putting them in a better place so they can heal better and in a quicker time frame.
So your mom, like what was you and your family's experience like, not only with Candy's place, but how did cancer affect you and your family?
Well, it's always, it brings you closer together, we're a very close family to begin with. And when you go through something like that, it's not a short battle. You're going to have, and everybody going through this has good days and bad days. And so it's, as we said, she went through some massive surgeries, some treatments. You go through all the emotional sides of it with them. You go through with chemo and radiation, the hair loss, which is a traumatic experience for anyone to go through. Healing from surgeries, having to go see your parent and they're in a hospital and there's tubes all sticking in and out of their body and have to see them in that state of mind. And then having the success and the happiness when they get to a better place, and they're healthy and they can do things again. And just knowing that the stress, my father was my mom's main caregiver. My dad was a engineer by trade, so very science, very numbers based. And he has just volumes and volumes in shelves and bookcases full of records. I think he took, every time my mother had a test on anything, he had the numbers tracked on it because of the complications of just about everything on that. So he took it upon himself to try to, we all did, to try to keep her, the strategy for us was, let's keep her a little bit insulated from all the details of what's going to happen, and let's just focus on keeping her in a positive state of mind. That's a strategy that worked for us. It's not exactly for everyone. Other people, those individuals should know exactly. It's not that we kept things from her, but we kept the focus off that. And so it takes an incredible strain, on my father, who literally, quite honestly, I swear he would be a doctor after going through
and now he is.
This kind of stuff. Yeah. It's literally, we would go to doctor's appointments and he'd come in with this binder and these are doctors that we knew and said, okay, what's this? And my dad would bring the numbers out and he said, this is where I think we should go. And 9 times out of 10, the doctors said, we're spot on. We agree with you. So it was such a complex case, but it also comes down to, you've got to push the healthcare industry to constantly focus on that.
How so?
And so if you look at things where people are going to go through this, and I said that literally it was a full-time job that my father took on in managing my mother's care. Think of yourself, you're an individual, you're living on your own, you don't have family, you don't have support, you don't have that person to do the extra research, to do the follow-up, to say, is there a different option or something else that we need the doctor consider on this side? Should we be going through a second opinion? If you're alone and don't have that, it's you're obviously not going to get the same amount of type of care that when you push someone to get that. And so it's a constant monitoring of that. And like I said, if you're going through it alone, you don't want to go through that as an individual. You have enough things going through your minds and dealing with your illness and dealing through your battle. You need to have folks like that. If you have people like that to support you, that goes a long way.
At what point along your mom's journey did she discover and start using the services from Candy's place?
We were trying to, because she was so ingrained to that, I'm trying to think back, where was day one? And I think it was, oh no, I do know exactly where it was, because I was reconnecting this earlier. So at the time, my mom's surgeon was, as I said, Dr. Chu at Geisinger, and his nurse was Penny Cunningham, who was the person who started Candy's Place, in name of her sister, Candy Mae Murray. So my father and and Penny had hit it off really well, simply because my dad, the way he analyzed things and managed things, really tied in with how Penny saw this. So they became really close. So I'm certain it was Penny who said, "You need to bring Mary. You need to bring your wife over to Candy's Place," and it was really interesting because some of the things we do, are wellness based, and my dad being an engineer said, okay, I understand a massage feels good or reflexology feels good, but Reiki, and so Reiki deals with, the energy in your body and relieving those stresses and managing that. And my father was like, come on, this is really not going to work. Sure enough, he went through a few times and he's like, okay, I'm a believer. So it's something that, it does take, like I said, it's really a little frustrating when we have because we want to focus so much on the patient, that the caregivers are just important, and our services are for them as well. And so many caregivers come in and think, this is wonderful, I'm glad you're doing this for my family member, my friend, my spouse, whoever, but I don't want to take a spot. And that happens a lot. And so they don't take advantage of what we do, even though we're there to help them through this. They always think, you take someone else who's better, worse off than I am, or, to go through this. And we have enough spots for everyone. We have more than enough capacity to add and take care of caregivers. And that's a big focus of what we do too. And coming up, I know we talked a little earlier about different months, being lined up with certain cancers, and November is National Caregivers Month. So we were going to be doing a number of things to acknowledge and honor the caregivers of all our clients that come through, and really enforcing that their importance in all of this. So it's great to work with them and to push them out there, because they're often so reluctant to get any help because they're so focused on helping someone else and not letting someone help them. And some of them take it worse than the person who has cancer. So again, our services are there for them too.
And just to clarify too, because one of the biggest misconceptions about Candy's Place, and I had, believe it or not, I had the same misconception even before I joined the board and before I really knew what Candy's Place was, but the services are for men as well. It's not it's not just breast cancer, and it's not just for females. It's males and right. I mean, anyone can come.
Yep. As we said, we probably, and if I look at the numbers and the breakdown, and you'll be getting the board report next, I think our next board meeting is in the next couple of weeks. But the breakdown of men to women receiving services in our place is about 93% women to 7% men. So we are really pushing the expansion of our men's services. Just prior to COVID, we put in a man cave in the facility. We call it the ladies' lair. We let them come in too, but it really is something that is, we've got the leather chairs, the big screen TV, we've got a full-size pool table, dartboards. We had a men's organization, a men's group that was really starting to gain momentum, gain strength, and it's in the center of our building. And unfortunately, COVID hit, and it's just doesn't meet the safety requirements. We know the folks that we have are a little compromised. So we really are going to be when we can get people back together, we're rethinking the men's group. We want to put a bigger emphasis on that because, again, the men are just, they tend to bottle stuff up. I could take care of this myself. I'm not going to, share this information. They're more than happy to share the experience and help others. But just handling on their own is something that a lot of men struggle with, and it's okay to get that help. It's okay to do that. It's not, doesn't show a sign of weakness. Get in there, get the help, and then help other people in the same way is what we're really pushing on that. So we're definitely going to be putting a big focus on getting a lot more men out there, involved with the men's group.
Did you ever think you'd be in this position?
It's an interesting question. Like I said, when it was the corporate side of things, it was, trying to get up in the highest level position, working your way up, getting things bigger. And there's, interesting stresses that come along. There's stress with any job, but when it gets to the point where you're in the corporate world and you consider a good day one where you come home and you don't feel like having a stroke, it's something that, so I knew that probably I wanted to get back into something more of a nonprofit, but I never thought I'd have an opportunity to have something so close. And you see people who are in these roles and our staff and volunteers, everybody's close to someone or themselves who've had cancer. So we all share that drive to do something better. We all share understanding and the empathy of people, the experiences people are going through. It's, like I said, some of the positives and most rewarding things are, helping people and helping people go through something you went through yourself. Also, the challenge of it is that when we're meeting people, clients for the first time, we are most likely meeting them at one of the lowest points of their life. I've had this happen 2 times. Where my office is, I could see out into the parking lot and I see people before they come into our building. Twice in the past couple weeks, I see a young couple, medium age couple, come into the parking lot. They get out of separate cars. They meet in the parking lot and they are there for 5, 10, 15 minutes in just the tightest embrace you can imagine. And you don't, even though you're not there with that conversation, you know exactly what's going on. You know that one of them has just come from an oncologist appointment and they've gotten news that no one ever wants to hear. And they come into our offices. They are in a state of somewhat shock. And we have this discussion about why they're here, what they're feeling, what they just went through. And we know that we can get them to a better place, but they've got a little bit of work to do and a little bit of getting through things. It is, like I said, it gives you chills to think about it, and to be part of that. But when you see those people 2, 3, 4 months in and they're using your services and they've gotten through that shock and they're going through the journey and they've got that positive attitude, and you become friends and family with these people. And so many times also folks will come in and for the first time, they hear about our organization. They don't know too much, but they hear we give away free wigs. We get that. A lot of the branding, however, knows that we get free wigs. So we do. Part of our services is we have hundreds and hundreds of wigs, haberdashery, men, women, all types. And people come in usually saying, I'm going to be at chemo this week, or I just started chemo and my hair's losing. And to see people come in with that look of we're all a little vain on it. You losing your hair is a traumatic experience. And to come and see them leave. There's a group of volunteers who love it when people come in for wigs. They just like, oh, we can't wait to go through this experience because it's a hell of a lot of fun. And so it starts off with some tears because of what they're going through. And then we break out and go into the wig room and they're saying, okay, what style do you want? What color do you want? Do you want to try this? Do you want to try that? Do you want something that matches your hair? Do you want to go crazy with something? And it is absolutely just amazing to see the transformation. We had 2 sisters who came in last week before. Similar case, they were both had different, slightly, I think they had same types of cancers, slightly different stages, but we're going through
2 sisters?
Yes.
At the same time?
Same time.
Are they close in age?
Probably 3-4 years apart.
Wow.
So terrible timing. But to see them go through and trying on wigs and how they couldn't wait to go to Wegmans afterwards and do shopping with their wigs on rather than some headscarf and something along those lines. And they left different people. So it's really amazing to see, because we track also when people come in for the various therapies or trainings, we always survey them when they walk in, how they're feeling, and then what they feel on the way out. And we're tracking that information and seeing how much of an effect we have, on a scale. So, we track it boring numbers wise, but you could see in people's faces, you could see it in how they talk. And so that is just an incredible feeling. Like I say, you know that people are coming in, they're not going to be in good shape when you first meet them, and you can just do a little bit to make things better. It's just a tremendous feeling.
Yeah, I know you probably kind of sort of already answered the question, but along those lines, you deal with people at the lowest of the low of their life, and their families, like their caregivers. Like, does that weigh on you?
What weighs on me is one of the worst parts of this job is that I've already had to go to a couple viewings. So, the reality is that the majority of folks who come in are going to get tremendous health care. They're going to go through a very challenging journey. And every day the healthcare community gets better and better at this. So more and more of those people are going to get better and better. Not naive to realize there are some people who you're going to lose. And I haven't been there long enough to build a lot of strong relationships. I'm doing it more and more every day. But you go to, our reflexologist Dave and I went to a viewing a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't the person who had cancer who had lost their life, but their husband, who was a tremendous caregiver, wonderful human being, suddenly passed away unexpectedly. And you want to support that family. And so we're, at the viewing, and it's very similar to my mom's. When you go to a viewing and you hear more laughter than tears, that person led a wonderful life. And so you get to see that. So there's a bit more of that. That's been the hardest part of the job so far.
Yeah. How did your mom feel when you got the position?
A couple of our last conversations were all about Candy's place. So, she had been struggling with some health issues, was in the hospital. Actually, she was hospitalized just prior to, again, for, over the past 6 months, she was hospitalized numerous times, and each time the gap in between was getting shorter. So we kind of had an idea of what was coming. We just didn't know how long. But when she was in, we were talking, is so-and-so still there? And people remembered my mom. She left an impact. And, for years, my mom was notorious for dropping baked goods, cookies and things off. She always would bake cookies and bake cakes. Every time she'd go for cancer treatments or treatments at Geisinger, she always brought baked goods to the team up there. And I do a lot of work with the folks at Geisinger, and it's always tough to hold back the tears when I'm up there and someone random person I'll be introduced to, and she goes, "Oh, we remembered your mom and what an impact she had on folks." So you hear that. And again, it's just another thing knowing that this job is, I've got an extra set of eyes looking down on me, and, I better do a darn good job in keeping the place going. But it's another one of the reasons why I feel so great to be there.
Yeah. What did she say to you when you got the job?
Oh, she was thrilled. She cried. She knew some of the board members. So she was like, did you have to talk to this person? You have to talk to that person. She couldn't wait. And my mom and I were very close. And through this whole battle, there wasn't a day I didn't talk to her 2-3 times. So I kind of gave her the heads up. Hey, I'm interviewing for this. And she was just beaming, couldn't wait to drop cookies off there again. And unfortunately, we didn't get to that, but we talk about her a lot at the center. A lot of the volunteers remember, the providers remember her, certainly. Very close to a couple of people still there. So it's but yeah, the question is how's Dave doing? Is he still doing magic tricks? Is he our reflexologist is a magician as well? And has he levitated for you yet? I kept getting that question for you. Make sure he levitates for you. And my dad still hits me up with that one. But so yeah, it's the conversations were, they're in the new building now. My mom was was getting treatment when we were in our old site in the other part of the building, but she was asking about that and who supports it, how's everything going. And so, like I said, the last few conversations we had were about Candy's place. So wow, it's important.
It's crazy how the whole thing kind of comes full circle. Wow. It's incredible. And, the organization is, grateful to have you as the leader, and, you're going to do a lot of great things. I can just tell, from your passion. Mm-hmm. So what's next for Candy's place? Is there anything new coming up?
Well, we are always evaluating and looking at, where we're going in the future. And as you know, being on the board, we're currently going through a new strategic plan for the organization, which is going to guide us for the next 3 to 5 years. So as part of the things that we're constantly discussing is our current menu of services, and we're currently evaluating what we have, what we should be adding. One of the things I'm putting a lot of focus on, and I think we are as well, is looking at more collaboration. Candy's Place, as we look at it, doesn't have to be within those 4 walls. What we want to do is partner. We're looking at partnerships with a lot of other different groups. We're exploring things with the YMCA, the JCC, and that's just the start of it. So we're looking at integrating more and more complex programs instead of standalone procedures. So instead of have people just focus coming in on a massage therapy or reflexology, we're developing programs like our Living Well program, which really does integrate a lot of those different things. So we have a group that's going through, and I just met with them the other night, and they just shot me a bunch of photos where we are focusing on all the things that we can do. So they're getting the consultative approach, they're getting the support group approach. They then are part of the strength and stamina and flexibility program, which our Chris Fozzie has been running at our team. We're integrating in those things that we, depending on how we analyze someone and see what their needs are, is massage therapy more effective for them? Is acupuncture? We're doing more nutritional guidance with these folks. And one of the things this group has done, and they're all going through this journey together in a group, is they're measuring and hitting these milestones. And one of the milestones they hit the other day is part of what they're doing is different hikes in the area. So they've graduated from these small little easy hikes to they conquered the top of Campbell's Ledge, which, being someone who hikes myself, knows that's not an easy hike. So for someone who's dealing with cancer or just post-cancer, to build up the energy, strength, and stamina to make that. So I have a bunch of photos of our group on top of the mountain overlooking the entire valley, knowing they made that. So
That's awesome.
That was a great one. I was great to see that. And I'm like, we're incorporating hikes into the next one and hitting these milestones. So we're trying to move into those longer, more complex programs to look at it as a more cumulative approach rather than just these one-offs on that. So we're doing a lot of that as well. Looking at again, our facilities are fantastic. I have to thank the Rob and Kim Miracle for all they do and providing the space to us. It's tremendous. We're looking at, slightly rebranding the organization. One of the things you struggle with is the organization's been around for 22, 23 years now, and we want to further get the information out into the community. So the more time I spend out of the office is going to be better right now, developing those relationships, branding us more. People in, the healthcare community, the oncology community know us exceptionally well. The general public may not know exactly what we do. So as we continue to develop and brand ourselves, it's how do you continue to honor where we came from and the honor Candy's legacy and Penny's legacy with what we want to grow as the organization. So you and I know we're in that transition right now, and we want to, again, honor the past while taking us to the future.
Yeah, awesome. So what about if anyone's looking to, either volunteer or get involved? Is there any way someone can do that?
Absolutely. We have, our organization thrives because of its volunteers. And we have such a tremendous group of people who come in and just do things from help man the office and the administrative side of things, which is pretty intense. We have a great team who comes in, and I'm just blown away at the amount of folks that come in and I'm not that emotional of a guy, but I get choked up all the time at work, just seeing the dedication of these people who come through and just want to help out. We have individuals who are far more technical, people like yourselves, than Mike McLaughlin, who offer the detail and the social media side of things, our website, our branding. That's incredibly important, and how appreciative we are of the time that's spent there. We have people who help on the financial side. So it's great to see those volunteers. But to get involved, it's very easy. Just reach out to our organization. You can check out the information for us on cancerwellnessnepa.org. We're on, of course, all the major social medias. Also, you can reach us. You call and ask for me if you want to volunteer. 570-714-8800. So that's been, again, we get calls all the time. We've got some great relationships with colleges and universities in the area. So we always have at least a couple college volunteers and intern. I've got one person I've just hired on from a college program who's a fantastic employee, Katrina Redline. We've also just expanded our staff a little bit. We've made a great addition. Melissa Ostrowski is our new program services specialist, and she's also a current client. She was someone who was just featured in the Times Leader. She was the Paint Pittston Pink Survivor of the Year, and there was just she partook in a very courageous, very brave article in the Times Leader, an interview that was somewhat intimate. Was fully sharing what she went through in her breast cancer journey, reconstructive surgery, everything she went through. And she just comes across as an incredibly positive person. So I know being a guy, a lot of our clients who are going through breast cancer may not feel totally comfortable with me. So it's great to have someone like Melissa who really has gone through something and is just so positive and so brave in sharing that information with those folks going through that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what else? Is there any message or anything you want to leave with our listeners in terms of just, cancer treatment in general, the organization? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Again, one of the things being a nonprofit, we're always looking at different fundraisers. So upcoming here we're starting now, and again, it's been very difficult with COVID. Obviously, we've had several. Our walk has been postponed. We've turned it virtual in this past year, which is a huge fundraiser for us. We have numerous fundraisers throughout the year. Those are still going on. Just some of the ones that just recently, I know breast cancer month of October has really brought in a lot of great funds. We've had a lot of participation from some local high schools. I was just out at Dunmore High School recently. They gave great contribution. Their school, did a multi-week fundraiser. Wyoming Valley West, the field hockey volleyball boosters just did some stuff for us. The Dallas High School cheerleaders. We've had a bunch of golf tournaments, which we have over the course of the summer. Groups designate us as the beneficiaries of that. I know it's the Wyoming Valley Country Club Lady Golfers just held the Isabel McGuire Sporer Golf Tournament. Again, they've been tremendous in supporting us. The Pink and Blue group up at Blue Ridge Golf Trail, can't say enough great things about those guys. So many different, interesting volunteers and people who are not volunteers, but contributors. The generosity has been unbelievable. We have an odd thing. I'll finish off with this story that we've been interesting. We seem to have good karma for some reason. Just the other day, and this happens in several different times in several different areas, but we were just having a conversation. As I said, we have a wig and haberdashery room where we give away wigs, and we were commenting on how our inventory of short brown hair wigs was running low. Literally the next morning, I get a call out of the blue. Someone reaches out to me and saying, my mother is passing, and she has for some reason she bought all these wigs over the past couple years, and I'd like to donate them. Do you take them? And I said, well, absolutely, of course we'll take the wigs. And how much do you have? And her response was a lot. And I thought, okay, this woman sounded a little stressed. So okay, we'll bring them in. And not knowing what to expect, she comes in and invites me out to the car, and I'm taking cases. So we got 50 wigs, high-end $85 to $120 wigs each, never even used, not even out of the box.
Wow.
And so, it's odd. We were, the week before we're saying, we have a need of water, water bottles for a thing. And odd thing, next day, somebody contributes cases of water to us. So I just want to throw out there,
what do you need? Throw it out right now.
Some $1 million contributions would be really nice.
That'll be in next week.
and so the big guy, if you're listening on us, one more would be good. But again, what we do, fundraising is a huge part of what we do. And I would be remiss not to talk about all the different efforts that we have. So again, we are going to explore getting some people together on another fundraiser this year. We are going to get folks. So on November 19th, we are partnering with Wisecrackers Comedy Club at the Mohegan Sun Casino in a fundraiser for us. They've got a great slate of comedians coming out. We've partnered with them in the past prior to COVID and have had tremendous success with them. I think we had well over 300 tickets sold at our last event. We're shooting to be a little bit more conservative just for keeping people a little bit more safe this year, but it's a great event. It's a great night out. And again, if you're interested in tickets, you can give us a call again at the center, 570-714-8800, and we'll be glad to make sure you get tickets in hand.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll leave it there. So, Tom, thanks again. This has been great. It was great to, thanks for sharing your story with your mom, and I'm sure she's, looking down and she's really, really proud of what you're doing.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. All right. Tom Ruskey, Candy's Place, On the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door Studio. Thanks for joining me. If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag #OnTheStacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on The Stacks.